Just a fundamental question that we've been talking about, obviously here and elsewhere, is the right to life, and that's a fundamental right. But I believe, and I think others believe, that there's a fundamental right to have a say over your life, and particularly if one is coming to the end of their life. And when one comes to the end of their life, they have, I suppose, fundamental thoughts in their mind and how their life is going to end. And if assisted dying was available, those that in that situation could at least have a choice. Because I think we have a choice in some manner in relation to withdrawing, food, in relation to, that kind of end of our life, in relation to medication, intervention, and so forth. So I believe it's a fundamental right for those that are in a situation of a terminal illness that's coming to the end of their life, it's time limiting, and they should have a choice. To me, that's a very fundamental right of any human being. And I wanted to get your kind of thoughts on that fundamental right of a say in one's life. These are deeply profound and philosophical questions, but it's a question that we need to, I suppose, grapple with on the fundamental right of those that are in that situation. Most people will never want to avail of assisted dying under any circumstances. They want to live every second, every minute, every moment of that life. But there are those that don't want to do that. And to me, that's the fundamental question, to give them a right and a choice. I just want to get your thoughts on that particular fundamental right of a situation that some people may find themselves in.
Ms. Gibney?
So, I mean, absolutely, we've highlighted first and foremost the fundamental right to life as being the right that this committee needs to consider first and foremost. I think what you're talking about is that options and the choices that should be available to people. And I do agree, and as we've set out in our responses, that having those range of choices available to people is positive and important. It is about having them as a full set of choices, though, and not just a set of choices on paper, if you like, that if one is introduced, that it is important that those other options are there. So palliative care has to be a good option, as Deputy Daly has said. We do have positive and strong palliative supports available in certain parts of the country, but it's not consistently available for people. So when you introduce choices, you have to allow for all of the choices to be fully readily available for people. And then you have to make sure that the decision making to opt for any of those choices is legislated for and facilitated, and that's why the Assisted Decision Making Act was so important, and why it is important to look at this in the context of that Act and to bring it forward should it need to be brought forward anymore, to allow for people whereby decision making is not as straightforward, and I am again talking about people with disabilities here, that they are facilitated to do so and to see that range of options and choices available to them.
I know you discussed about disability and issues like that could be coerced, but I was always struck by the legislation in New Zealand, and one of the main kind of paragraphs was those that could not qualify for assisted dying are those of advanced age, those with a disability, and those with grounds of a mental health. And I fundamentally agree with that. So others may not, and I know this is a kind of very nuanced and progressive debate that we need to have. But I think it comes down to a choice of an individual. It comes down to a say and how a person dies. And that's the fundamental right. And obviously that's what we have to grapple in relation to this committee. And hopefully at the end of this committee that, it can recommend some progression in relation to situations that people find themselves in. And there's no getting away from it. Some people, in relation to coming to the end of their life, will have a very, very difficult ending. There's no doubt about that. And in that situation, the law should be on their side in relation to hastening that end. And that can only be done kind of legally, medically, and fundamentally a voluntary decision by themselves. Is there evidence that people can be coerced where it's assisted dying has been legislated for? I mean, the evidence is not there. It's not there. You know, where assisted dying has been legislated for, certain countries in Europe, certain states in the United States, New Zealand, Australia, and other countries, the evidence is not there in relation to people being coerced. Just not there. Show me where it is. It's not there. It's not perfect. Models are not perfect, but we need to have a framework in place that people can have a choice. That's a fundamental right.
Are you all okay with that? Okay.